Hello and welcome to the Strange Origins podcast. I'm going to be joined with a good friend, Jacob. Say hello, Jacob.
Hi.
There you go. That
Hi.
cheery voice that you hear.
Hmm.
um,
Cheery guy.
yeah, we're going to be. Obviously, this is a new guest I've got on. I'm going to be trying to have different guests on every single time. Um, just working out a new format and see if it works. But, Jacob, why don't you introduce yourself and say what you do and all that stuff? All that
Yeah,
good
okay.
stuff.
Well, I've known Jack for what, 10 years
Something
now?
like that,
Something
yeah.
like that?
Shows our age a bit.
Oh, let's not dwell on that one. Um, I write, I guess, is what I do in two words.
Yes, he
I
is
write
a
things,
writer.
yeah, uh, for work and for life.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to touch on today because like you don't really hear that most often too much nowadays. It's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a writer. Like usually you don't hear that. Um, and usually when people say it as a passion thing, they're like, oh, pretentious. But like with like you guys, like you I know and someone else I know, it's actually quite like relevant in their lives. Like I'm assuming
Mm.
you've been writing for like since you were a kid, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but Mum says it's from like since being a toddler or
Damn.
whatever.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the spelling and grammar was atrocious. Absolute garbage child, but um apparently it was just stuff like the cat went to the baker. Um
So you're just coming out with sonnets like at the age of
There we go.
6.
Yeah, we can let's call it poetry.
Yeah, it's looking into the deeper world. That's what it is. But yeah, no, it's good that you stuck to like a passion for that long. Um, and it's something that like I think a lot of people don't do much of nowadays. Is like sticking to one thing and sort of like going to it. Um, I think that's something that like is usually a bit more rarer to find.
Hmm.
But it's
Maybe, yeah.
like
I mean, there's a lot of
it's either that or you're just lucky that you found something that you love, like, and you could just run with it. You know?
I do love it. That's definitely the right word, but also it's not always the most accurate word because um like you say stuck with it. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's like can't escape, which yeah,
Oh, okay.
God, is at the risk of sounding pretentious, but like um it's it's a weird thing where if you're not doing it,
Hmm.
then you're not happy.
See,
It
I actually like I can understand that, and I was gonna say like I thought like one of the dangers of of doing what you're doing, which is having writing as your job, is also dangerous because it can kill into your passion a bit. You end up like not writing what you want to write. You're ending up writing things you like have to write. Um, and like it's one of the reasons why I didn't want to get into like game design or anything like that because I didn't want my passion to become my work. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering like
yes,
how much does that affect
right.
you?
It's no, it's a good point. I think that does affect quite a lot of people. Like I guess the people I've seen it happen to most is streamers
Right?
where
Yeah.
they'll play games for a living because and they'll start it because they love playing games, but then they'll want to move on from a game or whatever, and their audience demands that they don't, and it
Hmm.
becomes draining. It becomes work. Writing in that frame of mind is something that our dear friend Oliver, would always warn me about.
Oh yeah.
Um, Especially taking it into marketing because it's such a different kind of writing, but it's um, it's incredibly creative and it's got a purpose. And I think for me, most importantly, most excitingly, um, the writing I do in my job is writing with restrictions,
Right.
and restrictions are so good for sparking creativity and for getting you going. It's it's problem solving, like
Yeah.
something as simple as a word count
Okay.
can really like make you stretch to get the most mileage out of your vocabulary.
Okay. I
Um,
can definitely like relate. I think like a lot of people can actually. It's something like it's the reason why certain challenges sort of exist in like in
exactly.
most of things. It's like it's what gives you kind of like a goal. Like I was recently speaking about a game I was playing, um, which is called like Escape from Tarkov, and it's like it
Mm,
comes into a thing where why are you playing the game? There's no real goal in the game, and you have to set your own goal. And then when you give yourself a challenge, that's the reason you start
mm,
playing, and that's where you get your enjoyment. It's the same with like physical fitness or even just life in general. You have to give yourself like a
right.
challenge and a goal. Otherwise, what's the point? I guess it's like
Yeah,
you're kind of lost a bit. So I can understand. I can definitely understand like having restrictions kind of makes it a bit fun, and you definitely seem to have that sort of personality where you want to sort of play on hardcore mode, like, and you want to like give yourself
exactly.
a restriction and make it better.
It's thrilling. I mean, you take any task, mundane as you want, and you hit a stopwatch, and maybe you throw in another person doing the same task at the same time, and suddenly it's
Competition.
exactly, it's everything. It's oh,
Yeah.
um, and you get that a lot in the job. Like let's say, for example, so the name of the gig is copywriting,
Right.
and um, that's not copyright in the legal sense.
No.
It's copyright with the WR. Um, and copy is any wording that appears on, well, anything really in any kind of marketing material. So like um if you look at a bottle of L'Oreal shampoo
Yeah.
and you see the tagline, because you're worth it,
Yeah.
that's
Like
that's copy. And that
I was gonna say, like the way I think about it, the things that you do is like sort of selling with words, and sort of like Mad Men sort of style. Like you're working in ads and you're trying to like sell someone a product or make a product look better or make a person or a company look better. Is usually why the way I
yeah,
understand it. Uh,
that's exactly it.
um, have you
Um,
found that has helped you in your like casual writing in like your own creative writing? Has it
yes.
helped? Oh, okay. So has it helped you like, I guess, describe certain scenarios better? Maybe.
Um, sure, yeah, it plays into description because the whole point of marketing is making the reader the main character, right? Like you're
Yeah.
the best marketing, with a few exceptions, I guess, you won't realize you're being written to.
Yeah.
You'll see it and it will apply to you and it will fit into your life, it will resonate and it will make you take the action.
Mhm.
Um, and you can definitely take that to creative writing. Um, it helps you keep things digestible. It helps you remember that unless you're just purely writing for yourself for pleasure or for therapeutic reasons, you are writing for this to be read by
Yeah.
other people who haven't had the same experience.
I think you've hit the nail on the head on one of the aspects of it. Is like I think the person has to have an interest as well. Like people see advertising or something like that as something like that. If you see it, you automatically, if they're good enough, you're automatically going to buy that product. And I don't agree with that. You have to have an interest like anyway before that. But it's still if you word it like in a
Yes.
good way, like it which I didn't. But if you word it in a acceptable way, like someone will then resonate with that and go, okay, I'm gonna get that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so like with that all in mind, like have you got any? Are you working on anything in a personal front, like any works like stories or novel or something like that?
Um, I have, I suppose, a novel that's always on the shelf and that I go back to every now and then.
Okay.
Um, it's taken a bit of a back seat
Mhm.
because I guess I thought that the goal was always to write a book, but probably in the last year, 2 years maybe, um, it's changed from that to telling good stories,
Okay.
um,
So a collection of short
which is
stories, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's definitely something I want to do. Because short stories, uh, in and of themselves are really interesting. They're so potent. You
Yeah,
can you can get so much more out of one in such a short time as compared to a novel. A novel will typically have fluff or drag in some
yeah,
places,
yeah.
uh, whereas a short story is just
Looking at you,
the
Tolkien.
punch, just the flavor. Yes, Tolkien, take notes, roll in your grave. Sorry, no, you are the father of fantasy. We love you.
It's definitely like something
um,
I've seen. Like I was gonna say, like in some ways, I would say short stories are sometimes harder to write because you have to hook the reader quickly, and you don't really like if there's
mm.
no payoff at the end, they're gonna be like, well, that was just fucked. Like I don't ever want to read anything else from this author because it was just boring. But like, I would love like a collection of stories that was like Black Mirror esque, you know, where
Mm.
they're just short, like short but sweet, but they have like a really good punch. Like that's like the
Yeah,
dream for me if I had a collection of short stories like that. But they don't really get much. I definitely Black Mirror like genre. I guess it is a genre now, but has definitely like risen in the past like 5 years. Um,
yeah.
it's something that I hope is going to keep on rising. I don't know what you would call it, like dark something, a dark side of writing, but
Oh, oh, as in what genre of fiction it is. Yeah,
yeah,
um, I suppose so. I mean, at its core, it's science fiction,
yeah. It's
but
like it's just that style of having like a really like I don't know gut wrenching like twist where it's like a twist on society as well as like life. You know, it's like
yeah,
really interesting to watch, I guess, because I haven't seen read much material like that.
you could call it like Orwellian. So I
Yeah,
guess like reflective,
that's true.
predictive science fiction. Um, because obviously not all science fiction is meant to make you go, "Oh God, is that going to happen?"
Yeah.
Um, like Star Wars, that just feels good.
Oh, this not anymore. It doesn't. But we're not gonna get into
Well,
that
yeah,
topic. That's a whole other
let's not go there.
podcast. But
uh,
I don't know. Like I was so I've obviously you've said before, and if anyone who knows you knows that you're a big nerd, and you play a lot of like
no.
Dungeons and Dragons, D&D. So I was gonna say
Uh,
like obviously so Jacob like takes the role of a DM, which is Dungeon Master, where basically he creates the scenarios and the entire. He's basically God, like in these worlds,
ooh,
and he comes up with the world and the world building, and he says things to people, and he creates sort of scenarios for anyone who doesn't know what D&D is. Um, and I was gonna say like your creative writing must play into that like big time, um,
mm.
and that must be like a something that obviously you're really good at and you're passionate about, and it just makes it I guess easier for you. How many like campaigns do you have on the go at the moment?
On the go, just the one.
Oh really?
So yeah, I've narrowed it down and purposefully so because I wanted to focus and streamline a bit more.
Okay.
Um, it takes quite a lot of headspace, and I think when I was getting into it, I probably bit off more than I could chew
Right.
in terms of how much headspace I was giving out. It's it's something you I think genuinely have to be careful of because it's so open-ended and so like all-encompassing that you can end up spending too much time thinking about it. There's no other way around it.
Hmm.
It's at the point where like if you're doing something you need to get done, you can't afford to start thinking about this story that you're creating because you will just get swept up
Yeah.
and it will take you away. So one is enough for now.
How many? What's the most you've had on the go?
The most campaigns.
Yeah.
Um, three.
God, like for anyone
Three
again
on
who
the go
doesn't
at
know,
once.
like these sessions, I'm guessing can last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to like 7 hours. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely time consuming, and Especially like I don't know if like again how much people know when listening to this, but like if certain scenarios, this is basically D&D is a game where you can go into it and somebody will tell you there's a massive castle in front of you, and you're about like you're just outside the gates. You can go, okay, well I turn around and walk the opposite way, and the dungeon master will now have to
Oh, the
create.
nightmare.
They would just have to create this world on the go, pretty much, or try and you know kind of guide you back to the castle to their area, but like you can't force anyone, and basically you can do
No.
whatever you want in that game because it's all I guess made up. It's all fantasy, so for to be able to have a whole campaign and people can just like derail it if they want. I'm sure you get some people like that in your group where they just want to go off and do their own thing. Like it's a classic thing of like in Mario or Metroid, you don't go right, you go left. You always go the opposite way, just to see if there's anything else there. Like
Oh God, yeah.
I think that's what people are doing in D&D campaigns right now. Like at least what I've heard, or at least what I would do. But imagine like the DM having to like come up with everything on the go. I can imagine it takes up so much headspace. So that if you had three of those
Yeah,
campaigns going at the same
and
time,
it makes
God, I don't know. Does it make it like? I'm guessing it makes it like pretty like what the world that you have to make is pretty robust. I'm guessing.
well, actually, what I'm learning now is the opposite. There are some things that you need to have robustly. That being, in my opinion, those things most of all are like the motivations of the bad guys,
Okay.
or the motivations of people who you know are around. If you know what people want, if that,
Yeah.
then you can typically figure out what they're going to do in any situation. You don't have to write a plan for every situation as long as you can bring it back to their core
Is that
goal, their core
is that something you
desire.
learned recently to do, or have you
Uh,
always had that in mind?
it's something that I think it's something you are told very quickly if you're like being told to do it or you're reading about it,
Yeah.
but it's not instinctual because your instinct is, especially if you're coming from having written stuff, your instinct is to write everything so everything's
That's
covered
true. Yeah.
so that you're never caught unprepared. And that just, if there's one thing you can count on, it's that people are going to do something you don't expect. Your
Right.
players
Okay.
will pull some nonsense out of the bag and make your day miserable, except it's it's not miserable, it's great.
Freudian slip,
uh
huh? I'm guessing like yeah, you might want to like show this to your like campaigners, I guess. See if they will like listen to this podcast and just find out that they're driving their DM nuts.
oh God, I
um,
make no secret of it. But yeah, guys, please have mercy.
have a break. But because I remember for us there was because you did a little tester campaign for us, and it was about I think there was about 8 of us, wasn't it? Is that 8 or 9? And you said like making I guess a sort of like campaign, a mini campaign as it is, with like 8 or 9 people
Nine.
is, yeah, which is kind of crazy. Like trying to guide, like even
Yeah,
then you had to split it into 2 separate groups and you had to do 2 separate campaigns, and you said that it was a lot of work,
it
um,
was. Yeah,
which
it took a
is
week.
which is insane to me because that's something you do in your off time. You obviously still work like 5 days a week, so it's
Mm.
kind of like nuts to make a whole campaign for that. And you got a lot of people riding like on it. You got everyone like I guess kind of expecting it to be not just good but enjoyable. So you got that pressure as well.
That's the thing. Like, it's not just it's not writing just for the sake of writing. You have to disassociate it from that pretty early. There's a big push and pull between um what makes a good story and what makes for compelling sequences versus everyone having a good time,
Right.
because there are story beats that you would expect in a regular piece of fiction.
Mhm.
Like for example, you have um, if you take like the Shakespearean five act structure,
Yeah.
then you have the beginning, rising action, climax, and at the climax, you'll find the protagonists at their worst. You'll find that everything has gone wrong. You
Mhm.
know, the bad guy has escaped with your Morleys that you've been hunting up and down to get, and not only that, Morley's has shut, so you can't
The world
go
looks
and
like it's
get
gonna
another
end.
box. Yeah, the world is going to end, and not every player will want that situation.
Yeah.
Not everyone. There are people who play to escape and don't necessarily want to be faced with adversity of that level, or be forced to question things on this
Yeah.
level. And you you have to make sure that everyone's having a good time, because it's like you say, it doesn't just take your time to prepare. The players that you have are sacrificing their time every
That's true.
week or every
Yeah.
2 weeks to come and take part in this.
Well, I
So
guess like that leads really like nicely. I don't know how that worked, but leads really nicely into my other question, which is like with what's going on at the moment in the world, like COVID and that.
mm,
Have you had to like kind of deviate your campaign, or at least make it less or more, I guess, immersive in terms of like taking people's minds off things? Is that something
mm.
you've tried to work into your campaigns? I guess.
uh I don't think so, to be completely honest. In fact, we've probably gone a bit more in depth
Okay,
since the pandemic happened.
but
We've been able to.
is that kind of a knock on then? So it kind of still, I guess, takes people out of what they are doing in the world.
I'd say so. I mean, a
Yeah.
big part of it for me is escapism. And I know that at least a couple of my players don't want to have to think about what's going on every day, and I I would hope that what we do when we play can provide them some small solace in that way. And it's also uh, really interestingly, it's also a way to um, like actively do things that you can't do or wouldn't do otherwise.
I guess I never really thought
So
of it like that. Like, I mean, just the act of like in a D&D campaign going outside during a lockdown would have been something that's pretty like what was on everyone's minds, wasn't it?
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
I can imagine like this has had like a great like positive effect on mental health in terms of you and your like what do you call them?
players,
Players? Is just players or campaigners or whatever?
just players,
Okay,
folks,
just people,
peeps,
just
matey
people.
boys and gals.
But yeah, like I guess it had a really positive effect on their mental health and what they actually were doing at the time of like, or when it was worst, I guess.
I'd like to think so. I mean, obviously it's social, so if you're introverted, you need to be careful with how much energy you're spending on it. But there are things that like it gives you a chance to take control in a way that you maybe can't always do in real life, or do things that you would like
Yeah.
to have of yourself in real life. Like there's one player who in real life is um very calculating
Okay.
and very slow to make decisions, I guess.
Okay.
She'll consider every angle before doing something,
Okay. Yeah.
and she'll want to talk things through and make sure everything's set in place. But in D&D,
Yeah.
she is the
Just go.
complete and total opposite. She's always the first in. She's always the first to say like fuck it.
Yeah.
Can we just do this? She also is the one who has probably ruined my plans the most and made me tear pages out the book and throw them away.
You need people like
But
that.
no, I you do, you definitely do. That's like
I definitely
as
relate to
funny as
that
it
player the
is
most,
to
I think.
just like breaking the boundaries.
Well, like, I mean, in terms of like, I was always somebody who would try and consider every single possibility before I went in, and it's something I've tried to
Hmm.
actually change about myself over the last year, especially with COVID. I was like,
Hmm.
you did all this planning and calculating and all that stuff, and then something like this happens, and you weren't prepared for this, so it screws up your plans anyway. So you might as well just do what you wanted to do anyway. I've been
Exactly.
definitely
Yeah.
running more on instinct over the last 6 7 months than I have been before, and I think it's like that definitely plays into the same the same thing. When you start doing that, you start having fun a bit more. It's definitely more
It
riskier,
does, yeah.
but it's like you start having more fun, and that relates to the campaign where she's probably having loads of fun, just running in, going like, "I don't care." Like, it does
I
definitely
hope
help.
so. It's the mindset that creates the most memories. It's the moments where, like, as much as I want to write a great story and write these story beats and have these things happen, the things that we'll remember most are the times when the players didn't do didn't follow the
Yeah,
clear path and
spontaneity.
completely went in the other direction or upturned the table basically.
Well,
And that's what I live for. That's why I love the players I have so much. They are so good at doing that,
yeah,
and it's past the initial moments of shock horror, such an absolute pleasure to like witness.
yeah. Like it leads into a question that I was gonna say. It's like, so do you, like with your campaigns? I'm assuming like, because there's that argument with like books and writing, is that once you
Mm,
write something, it's not yours anymore.
mm,
Like it
mm.
becomes the readers, it becomes everybody else's. It's like public.
Yeah.
Um, and so with the campaigns, it kind of like that. You got to realize that it's not your campaign. It's like
Yes.
it's everybody's. You know, it's like it's now their property, and they can do with it what they will. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about that concept when it comes to writing, though? Do you think like it's everybody else's property now? Like in terms of like J.K. Rowling, she's like, hey, she can't touch it anymore. She's a writer, but it's everybody else's now. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, I uh,
I'm very much
it's a
in the
tricky
camp.
one
I'm
because
very much in the camp of like, no, it's the authors because
mm,
they wrote it. It's theirs. It's like who else is they know the most about it because it's in their head. You know.
if you buy a blueberry muffin from
Here
Costa,
we go. Here comes your
who
your
does it belong to?
one-sided like metaphorical arguments they
I'm just
usually
saying,
come
man.
out.
I'm just saying.
The difference is that blueberry muffin is a consumable.
So is literature.
Oh, get out of here!
You
This
can consume it
this will be
multiple times.
titled "The Pretentious Podcast." Is what it's gonna be.
Oh.
But what is a book? Like, get out of it.
No, but really, what is a book? Like, okay,
Oh my
oh
god!
God's sake.
I knew this would
I'm so
happen.
sorry.
um, but yeah, how have you like? What have you done, sort of like, to handle or get a grips on the mental health areas of COVID? Because I was gonna say like, you're a gamer, obviously. I'm a gamer. Like we play games and shit. So
Mm.
it's for us. We were kind of laughing, really. Like it was, we just went on Discord and started talking, or we went on Zoom. It's like every day we were playing games anyway.
This was
But
our moment.
yeah, some people like literally going down the pub was their socializing.
Mm.
So for us, we
And
didn't really have an
suddenly,
effect. But it still kind of had an effect. But like, I would say we weren't as worse off as other people,
yeah,
unless I'm wrong.
uh, if there was change, it's that like for me in my head,
Yeah.
gaming is a reward.
Right. Okay.
It's a reward that I earn through uh going to work throughout the week and then maybe even going out of my comfort zone.
I do forget that you
Um
weren't followed. So
yeah, yeah, exactly.
like,
Or like socializing, I guess,
yeah.
which is I mean, now like we're all dying of thirst for it, but
Yeah.
it can drain energy. It can be
Oh yeah,
draining.
it's definitely, yeah. Unless you're like
And
completely extroverted, then yeah, it's not
yeah,
it is effort. It's still not like people misconstrue that, like it's not effort as in a negative way. I was like, oh god, I have to do this. It's still fun. Don't get me wrong, but meeting somebody every day, like a group of friends every day, can definitely take its toll.
it can.
I mean, look who
It
I'm talking
can.
to. I'm talking to the one person who literally does that a lot, or used to, and it definitely took a toll on you. I think, like, because it's just like it would on anybody, you know.
Yeah, I suppose so. Um, that life has been different after I realized that actually.
Really.
Um, like the importance of taking time out to be alone. That was a game changer.
Hmm. Like self care, you know.
Yeah, and it being okay. Like I I might work from home tomorrow, and I might do it just because I've been in the office all week and been out every day this week and
Well,
don't really want to.
the fact that that's even becoming an option now is actually brilliant. You
It
know,
is.
like people are like, I mean, I won't say who, but there were some people like I've seen in companies where they were like, "Oh, we've realized due to the recent pandemic that we can do meetings via Zoom now." It's like, you could have always done that. Like they're like, "Oh, we're saving money here now." It's like you could have always done that. You didn't have to pay for your executives to go to a hotel and stay at five-star hotels. But anyway,
It's
that's a
not
complete
something you think about.
no.
Like there
Well,
were,
oh god, there's revolution.
it needed to happen. Like even for me being an introvert, there's a company who I subscribe to
Mhm.
who are all remote, and they've been all remote for years.
Yeah.
And I would read about their journey as an all remote team and like scoff and be like, that doesn't work. You guys are definitely posturing. Like
Yeah.
Skype meetings. What? When are you gonna get a pint? Like
Yeah.
no. But no, I I was a fool. We were all
I
fools.
think like
Um,
there is definitely a dynamic of like, you wouldn't. Let's say the new generation or a newer generation, if they all their work was only ever Zoom and Skype, they definitely wouldn't develop social skills as much as others. I think.
mm,
Um, so there is that aspect of it. I do think it kind of there needs to be a balance. You don't always need to work from
yeah,
home, but you don't always need to be working in an office.
yeah,
But
no, definitely.
we are coming close to the end, um, which is it flew by. But
It did.
I wanted to ask you. You are an upcoming writer, at least.
Oh,
Your
it would blush.
your three recommended books that you would have to give somebody, and you have no
Oh
time to think.
gosh.
You got to literally just say the first
No.
three that you would recommend
Oh,
somebody to read. That's
how
it.
could you do this?
I sprung this on you straight away. You had no idea it's coming.
Ah,
But if people was
okay.
gonna go away and go, oh, I listened to this, I'm gonna read these books. Which one would you recommend?
No.
Go.
Ah. Okay. Dave the Triffids
Okay.
because it's post-apocalyptic, but not in the way that anyone else does it, and your vocabulary will expand massively because it's people like battling to survive in a world that's now being ruled by plants, but also having like philosophical debates over where to take society because they're now in control.
Okay.
And just the conversations are brilliant. Um,
Next one.
ah, damn you. Normal People by Sally Rooney,
Okay.
because not for the that one doesn't have a plot per se. That one is very introspective, and um if you're struggling with mental health in any way, or if you've ever felt out of place
Mhm.
or um like people don't understand, then you'll be able to empathize with the characters in that.
Okay.
She does an excellent job of exploring the brain.
And then the last
Um,
book. The last book.
honestly, dude, Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web. That's a good one.
Yes, it's such a good story, and it's so digestible. It doesn't matter what age you are when you read it, you will get something from it,
It's
and
true.
you will be taken on an emotional journey.
So now,
Um,
when you make it as a big writer, this will be on on record as the three recommended books by Jacob.
uh, I reserve the right to change top
No
three at any
rights, no
time.
rights granted. But thanks for joining me.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
no worries. Hopefully you can join me again in the future and we can talk about other topics and stuff. But
Would love to.
yeah, this has been Strange Origins podcast. Hopefully I think I'm gonna have a new episode. Either if it's not next week, it'll be the week after. I might do bi-weekly. But yeah, thanks for joining us and thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.